What's happening, guys? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend again. Once again, we're at Sunday night scan for the 19th of August. We are flying through the summer and flying through the months, unfortunately, but that's all right. We've had a pretty busy summer. So many people were asking, well, what about slow summer? How do you trade different when the market's so slow in the summer? And really, I mean, it's been probably the most active it's been all year round. Forget the summer. But this week, I'll be traveling a little bit. I'll have my laptop and screens and whatnot, but I'm heading to Miami, as most of you guys should know. And we're doing another Lucci Meets. I have a lot of fun getting up there with him. We've done Boston, Chicago, and New York City. So this one will be in Miami, and I think Sang's doing one in LA next month, but I won't be there for it. And then we're going to meet in Vegas around Traders for a Cause. Traders for a Cause, we've done a meetup outside of the Traders for a Cause event for all you guys and Centerpoint clients and whatnot for the last 5-6 years. But this year we're going to add in this kind of element to it as well at some point. We just haven't figured that out yet. So that's going to be another fun one. So getting into a little bit of last week as well as scan for this week. Quite a crazy market last week. We had a lot of low float squeezers come back. We had RKDA, we had PSTV, and we haven't seen those in quite some time. They started to kind of jump up a little bit and kind of show their face, but not really any big squeezes. Then all of a sudden RKDA came out of nowhere and started going nuts. And then obviously this PSTV went from 3, 4, 5 all the way up to 16. So that one was a little wild. So showcase a little bit of investors underground. For those of you guys that are not in there, I always talk about surrounding yourself with the best. And that doesn't mean necessarily the best trader, the best options guy, the best however many different types of strengths there could be. But sometimes it's the news guy, the best news guy. And I always talk about how we have, some of the fastest news on the street. And, it's not just me saying that. I mean, it's the proof is in the pudding. And, PANW is a perfect example of that. As it was kind of sitting there for a couple minutes, we had the news and we broke it at 221. So that was right over here. Sat there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more before briefing as well as all the other news services started to pick it up. Had it early. It was 216.90s and complete unwind once the rest of the news services started to pick it up. So it's a great example of surrounding yourself with the best. And that doesn't necessarily, like I said, mean a particular trader or whatever it may be that you feel is the best. It's all about having different traders from different types of niches kind of all working together towards obviously the same goal of profitable trades or good trades, good alerts. And so this is just one of many of the examples. And really an amazing way to end the week on Friday. So, nice opportunity there. Ideally, if we're going to trade it tomorrow, the goal would be maybe a washout, retest towards those lows, and then come back towards 203 to maybe 205 or so. There's probably going to be a little bit of resistance that it's going to have trouble getting through that level. You can kind of see by looking left. However, always a good chance that it rallies right back because they'll downplay it and, we'll have some type of fast rally before it ends up fading off sub 200s in the next couple weeks. Once it's off our radars, of course. PSTV. PSTV was a crazy one. Got long pre-market very early. Had a great trade off of it. Got short, covered, and did not want to short it the rest of, going into the open and whatnot. So a newsletter got involved. And anytime that I'm long and a newsletter gets long, I can't stay long. I just can't do it because as soon as they long, sometimes 2 seconds later they sell. And, at any point, that sell could cause it to go straight into a circuit halt. And it actually did on a few occasions. So I try to stay away from that kind of stuff. I did trade it short throughout, most of the midday. And I thought that we were going to crack quite a few times over here. But we talked a lot about, especially on the RKDA example, but one of the factors that I kind of put into whether or not this has the potential of squeezing is how many times should it have died? How many times should it have not come back? And you draw a line over here, 990s, basically 1010 to 990s, and it was basing every single time. So somebody was supporting it there, and it should have died. It should have died. It should have died, and it should have died over here. And instead, swipe right back up and over VWAP. So here I was, it was coming down, nice unwind, and here I was actually at 990 to cover, and after it went to 1001, I was at 1001, and then I put it to 990 for some reason. So it flushed out to 1001, and for whatever reason, I had changed it, so I didn't fill. And then shortly after that, ripped right back up. So I put it at 1005, and I was like, you know what, that's fine. Next time it pulls back, maybe I'll fill. Yeah, it didn't happen. So I went ahead and swiped the offer right over here into the 1120, 1140s, turning what I had a really good trade, about to go, but I ended up turning a winner to a loser. And, the tell for me was it should have died. It should have died, and then it was starting to retest these prior highs. We're getting into 2, 3 p.m. I'm not going to fight it. So I ended up getting long, and I just put a stop basically at 1150s, and I let it work. So ended up being a pretty decent trade, but it could have been bad if I tried to fight it. So you always got to go back and really look at what areas should have cracked, which didn't, and also we talk about this all the time. We've been talking about looking left to predict the right for quite some time now. So doesn't always mean that every single stock is going to do this, but when things start to go nuts, you should ask yourself, if it goes nuts, what are the possibilities? Where would it potentially have some type of resistance? And you'll see that it probably was not going to have, too much pressure until about this 16 level. Sure, they could sell 700 and some odd thousand shares into the float over 750. We knew that from the filings, but if you do a quick look, you need to be cautious and understand that this thing could go 10, 12, 14, 16 without a doubt. And we've seen that, on RKDA, we saw that kind of looking left, what levels could it go to. We saw it on VISL, if you guys remember talking about, what levels could it go to where it's likely going to top. But if it breaks through that level, you've seen what obviously can happen. So at any rate, if you guys have questions about that, feel free to reach out. I'm not going to go through it again, just because I've been doing it over and over and over again. But I hope that you're starting to look left to anticipate right. So with that said, PSTV, my fear is that we're going to gap down and we're going to go to 11. 10, 11, 12 gap down, something like that, and it just unwinds to 8. And I end up missing the trade. However, if we don't, it starts to hang around, then I'm definitely interested. And I'm not necessarily interested in a trade tomorrow, the next day. Tomorrow, if I traded, I want a weak open and rally back in some type of rip. However, if I wanted a real squeeze, potential buy-ins, T+2, et cetera, then we're talking maybe Tuesday, Wednesday plus, similar to a BPTH situation. So, let's just assume that this isn't really 400 float now. It's really like 1.1, 1.2. That's still right in the same ballpark that BPTH was. So, again, I'm not calling it the next BPTH, but what I am saying is that we did have a big run like this on BPTH. It died off for a couple days. It looked like it was toast. And then it came back on a PR. So I'm keeping my thoughts open. But my fear is that they do an S1A, an amendment because the new ticker, and we end up gapping down, and they get some type of offering off or whatever. So, and maybe I should have just held it, short from Friday. But I don't play those games with such low floats. There's it only takes one. It only takes one to be on the wrong side. So that's my kind of game plan for tomorrow. SLDP, most of you guys should know, be familiar with this one. You guys know I've been swinging this one, and it's been a pretty good one so far. I've been mentioning it. I posted on Twitter when I took it for a swing, as well as the last couple Sunday scans we've been talking about it. So with that said, you can see that it kind of pulled back here on the daily, right? And so at that point, that next day, I saw it, obviously, because I was swinging it, but it didn't really register as like a day trade. However, the fact that it came back so fast in such a big candle, it now became of interest to me as a day trade. So I put it on scan on Wednesday, and I said, basically, week opens for a rally I'm interested in. And so I had a week open, it came back, and then the next day, Friday, obviously, it had gapped up. And so that to me became not just a swing trade now. Yes, there's a swing trade in one account. However, now it's actually day tradable. And the thought process was we were going to go back and fill the gap. That's exactly what we did. As I wrote in the room, and you guys saw, I posted on Twitter, I was thinking very early at like 7:20s, that it's not just a kind of an 8 trade. I'm thinking that we could potentially do a $9, $10 move. So we'll see what happens, but as long as it holds over 850s, I think there's some pretty good potential here. But again, make sure you guys have a plan with it. Make sure you stick with it. Take profits along the way. But I mean, this is almost 60, 70, 80% winner. So awesome job so far. RKDA, so far it kind of feels like they just walked. I mean, the last couple days might have just been working through covers, and you can see it started to fail versus VWAP, started to fade off. And so what I wanted to see was that 750 level hold on Friday for a potential of a pretty good move this coming week. But obviously we didn't hold that level, so we're back to making a new plan on it. So if I were to trade this, if I were to get excited about it, I'd need to see it over 750 and holding well with volume returning. I would expect PRs. I would expect other things coming. But as long as the volume kind of tapers off and we're under that 750 level, it's not that exciting to me. So for now, I would assume that every time you see it kind of peak out like this, that it's going to probably have a little bit of pressure. But we'll see what happens with it. Definitely staying on radar. It had huge volume, so there's still always that potential. And shorts are still not, they might be making money on this short, but they're still not even overall. No doubt. Like, the people were stuck at 350s, 380s, 4s, 450s, 6s, throughout the entire move. And if they were smart, if they were good traders, they likely took the stop loss, because most people don't, try to hold through all of it, because that's how you blow up, obviously. So if that is the case, then they're probably, short this round with a good average and feeling pretty good about it, but they still haven't taken their profits yet, because they're probably still not even. So with that said, you're right back to square one, where you've got a bunch of shorts and you can have this candle like this any day. So if we get a move like that, then we've got a potential for another next leg up. So we'll see what happens. I'm not trying to get too bullish on it, though. I've done that all in the past, trying to figure it out. But in this day and age, 750s is my level to get excited again. And I'd rather actually buy higher than buy at 680s, 7s, anticipating that 750 break. GE, so far, that was a nice, really nice scoop. The washout day. Unfortunately, I didn't hold it over. I had bought quite a few 780s. It was over here, this pullback. Right when CNBC said that so and so believed the CEO, et cetera, and also the CEO comments had come out right around that time. So I got long pretty heavily, and I was looking for basically a move basically to VWAP in 850s. I think it closed around 850s or so. I mean 830s. I guess 820s or so. But the goal that I was looking for anyway was that move late day, and actually that was after hours. So let's take a look, so I don't give you wrong info. Yeah, 8:10. It was close. Right around 8. So it closed around 8 that day. So I had traded it off this washout, and I made it to about maybe 8:06 or so, and then I took the rest off before close. But next day, I was thinking potential gapper, and it did. So I'd be looking for another opportunity like this, where it's got a little bit of a weak open, it kind of shakes people out, and then it carries on. So for example, I'd like to see it come back to 860, 870s, and then rally back through 9. I think we can go back and fill this gap. And then what happens usually is you end up pushing through that gap and squeeze out everybody that kind of got a little too heavy under 8. So we'll see what happens there. NVAX has been a great trade for us. I didn't really take part in this big breakout, unfortunately. I did fade it, and it's been good. I got here long this day, as you guys probably saw on Twitter. And made it most of the way. It was a nice trade. I was happy about kind of the anticipation of it. And then I started to short it up versus the 650s, and then the next day I did the same thing into the pullback. But for the most part, obviously the trade has been on the long side, as you can see, the fast rips off the open. So at some point this will stop, and at some point that big move will be a fantastic short opportunity. So this is trading super, super thin, but it's not a super, super thin name. It's got a lot of bag holders. It's kind of like a cult type stock. So, you never want to underestimate their power to hold. But with that said, we're going to have a nice opportunity coming. And if you remember not APDN. We'll start with RAD. RAD, very similar, where it had that rally and kind of squeezed everybody out, and then the reality came back. And then Apron, that's what it was, Blue Apron. And then we had the similar situation where it went nuts, right? Big volume, and then it just came right back. So these are the two that kind of remind me of NVAX right now, where, yes, it's trading super, super thin on the front side, but don't forget what type of stock it is. It's a very, very thick name, and it will come back in. It's just a matter of time. And don't pre-exhaust yourself on the front side. Meaning, don't keep on trying to find the top. Because if you keep on trying to find the top, you're going to exhaust yourself and you're going to miss the entire move. So let's just wait. Let's see what happens. Let's hope for another rip to 850 or 9 off the open, and wait for the trend to change. SMSI, another one. If you guys have been paying attention to these, you know that I am long. I have been from the earnings, and I'm just letting it work. So whether that's a good plan or not, we'll see. But my plan is not 2 weeks. It's more like 2-3 months, maybe 4, into the next quarter. We'll see. But pretty big game changer numbers. So hopefully that continues to hold. It's obvious that there's a seller up here in the 650s, 660s, and it's been closing under this level every single time so far. So that you should take notes. And if you have a good average and you want to let it work, let it work. If you don't have that great of average, then you should be taking note that it's had a little bit of trouble at this level. But this also goes on my day trade watch now, just because we are nearing a potential breakout, and if it does start to set up for a red to green through 650s, 660s, I want to be there for it. So we'll see what happens with that. HOME, I tried this one a couple times on Friday, and I just should have closed my eyes and held it. I started to get in there, everything was good. I added a little bit, starts to come back. I was like, you know what? Everything else is working. I'll can it. Starts to go. It's going again. I was like, you know what? I'm an idiot. I should have left it alone. And then I canned it, and then it started to keep on going. So it's one of those where it should ideally have a nice trend like CVET potentially. I'm not saying that's going to go up, $2-3 like this one did, but like that, or TWOU. Once it starts to go, I guess you can see, once it starts to kind of grind, I feel like it's going to have maybe a 2, 3, 4 day type of grind, and at which case I would like to be part of that on HOME. So that's what I'm kind of thinking about right now. And everything that I would do is probably versus the 5 level as risk. I probably wouldn't want to own it if it's not over 5. TWOU, nice one on Friday. Just join the fade. At this point, higher the better. I'm looking for that crack day. I'm not trying to find the top. You can see that they pretty much had pressure versus VWAP through most of the day. That's the kind of stuff that I look for. Obviously there was some cover or some action into the close, but I'm looking for the 9:45, 10 a.m. to lull type trade. But it might be worth waiting for the day that it's down 20 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents, because that's the day that we're going to pull back to 14.50 or 15, something like that. So see what happens with that. SDRL, you guys saw this one for those on Twitter or in the room, but dips, the plan for me was dips. It had news. It's been beat. It's been pretty beat, especially as of late, but started to hold, ended up flushing out a little bit. So I started to build a position. I got some 230s, 240s, and I kept on scaling in, and then as it kind of danced around a little bit, I sized back down, rescaled back up, ripped up, came back, sized down a little bit, sized back up a little bit, and then I pretty much was done with the trade in that 270 area or so. I do like this, though. I'm going to be watching versus 260, 270s, and we'll see what happens with that. Real, nice mover, higher the better, looking for the backside, or weak open versus 17s, maybe we get a nice push towards 18. I don't really care to short it unless we get some type of sprint through 18, or we see some type of backside action, 9:45, 10 a.m. plus. MYGN, I think it just bounced because it was oversold, but I think that this thing could potentially continue to unwind. This was just really, really bad, like real bad. A lot of people got stuck in this thing, bad. This thing would not downtick this day, so all shorts covered. There was building a big long position, and then the next day, on earnings, they came out with more info. Complete unwind, went back to retest the prior lows. Again, looking left to kind of predict right, you can see here the low here was 2250s and the low here was 22s. So once again, you got 2250s basically kind of forming a base, through here, and not these 2 days, but for the most part. So anytime you're trying to catch a falling knife, just like we talk about on the daily charts, kind of anticipating where it could go, you probably don't want to get too aggressive before it tests prior support. So with that said, higher the better. 26 plus, maybe an unwind back towards lows. LK has been good. LK, I've been looking for all pops to join, so I joined this one short on Friday. That was nice. That was the plan all week. I don't think I took part in it on Thursday. If I did, it was minimal. But I will keep on trading this for the fade until it starts to rebound and holds over VWAP, and at which point I would consider for a rally. Tilray is, in my eyes, an Uber type opportunity. So, Uber, the goal on Thursday's scan was, actually Wednesday's scan was potential gap down and reversal. It didn't happen, it sold off. It gapped up, actually, and it sold off. So, again, it went back on scan because it didn't work on Thursday. So, potential on Friday was for the same thing, ideally gap down and reversal. So now Tilray is same kind of situation where lower the better. I'm not trying to find a bottom, but any gap down and flush, I'm interested. And then I'd scale if every rally started to hold trend better and better. If the rally started to get heavy, where it should rebound and it should be thin, it should be popping up, and it's not, then I want to run. I don't want to be, sticking around to see what happens. Because if it's going to go like Uber, right? So if it's going to go, we're expecting $1, $2 rebound. So, I'd rather be paying higher than trying to find the bottom and try and overstay and kind of see what it does. I'd rather, this was still even a good buy up here, still got another buck out of it. So once they do turn for quite some time and do offer some great opportunities. So we'll see what happens with all of that. But again, we've got quite a bit every single day that comes to us. I've been taking a few off scan for the bigger picture type ideas. And then I've been kind of focusing in on, whatever else hit scans throughout the day, whether it be news driven or volume driven, momentum driven, low floats like PSTV, etc. So that's about it from me. If you guys have any questions, use the comment section below. Feel free to reach out, and we're here to help.